Captain Jaiwo Park stood frozen on the bridge of the Earth diplomatic vessel Olive Branch as the screen showed what remained of Nova Terran. Where a vibrant human colony once thrived, only smoking ruins remained. The settlement had been home to over 3 million people, most of them families with young children participating in Earth's educational outreach program. "This can't be right," Jaiwo whispered, her knuckles white as she gripped the command rail. "Scan again." First Officer Do-hyun Kim worked the controls with trembling fingers. "Captain, the readings are accurate. No large life signs detected. Only scattered heat signatures in the northern quadrant." Jaiwo ordered immediate landing and rescue operations. As the shuttle descended through Nova Terran's atmosphere, the true horror became clear. The colony's famous crystal domes, built to house its renowned schools, were shattered. Buildings that had stood tall just days ago when they received their last transmission were flattened. The rescue team moved through the rubble in stunned silence. The attack pattern made no sense, the heaviest damage centered on schools, hospitals, and residential areas rather than military or industrial targets. "Captain, over here," called Medical Officer Sun Woo from behind a collapsed wall. Jaiwo rushed over to find Sun Woo kneeling beside a small figure half buried in debris. A girl, no older than 12, eyes wide with shock, clutched a small data tablet to her chest. "She's alive," Sun Woo said, already working to treat the child's injuries. The girl's name was Haeun, they learned later in the medical bay of the Olive Branch. She had been in an underground learning center when the attack began, protected by the school's emergency shields. "They came without warning," Haeun said, her voice hollow. "Big ships with the council symbol. They said we were dangerous and had to be stopped." Over the next 24 hours, the Olive Branch crew found only 14 other survivors hidden in various shelters or protected by fallen structures. None were adults. As Jaiwo reviewed the colony's final communications and defense system recordings, a pattern emerged. The attacking fleet had moved with surgical precision, targeting educational facilities first, then residential areas. The few military installations on the colony had been hit last, almost as an afterthought. "Why would the Galactic Council do this?" asked Communications Officer Miho, reviewing the footage for the 5th time. "We've followed all their regulations since joining." The answer came when they accessed Nova Terran's main database, miraculously intact in a hardened underground server room. The colony had been developing new teaching methods that combined human creativity with advanced knowledge shared by friendly alien species. The results were remarkable, children learning at rates that surprised even the most optimistic educators. "Look at this," said Jaiwo, pulling up a message flagged as urgent from the colony's leader to Earth Command. It had never been sent. They were warned 3 days before the attack. The message contained a recording of a minor council official visiting the colony. The official had seemed impressed by the schools but grew concerned when shown projection models of how quickly the children would advance. "Your educational methods are unprecedented," the official had said. "Some council members might view this as destabilizing to the established order." Later that night, as the Olive Branch maintained orbit around the devastated world, Jaiwo found Haeun in the observation deck, staring down at her former home. "I was supposed to present my research project next week," Haeun said without turning. It was about how different species learn together. Jaiwo sat beside her. "What did you discover?" "That we're better together than apart. That humans learn differently than other species, but not worse or better. Just different." She finally looked up at Jaiwo, eyes reflecting the stars. "That's why they were afraid, isn't it?" Before Jaiwo could answer, First Officer Do-hyun rushed in. "Captain, we've intercepted communications. The Council is claiming Nova Terran was developing biological weapons. They're calling it a preemptive security action." Jaiwo looked from Do-hyun to Haeun, then back to the devastated planet below. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them what we found. And tell them." She paused, placing a hand on Haeun's shoulder. "Tell them we have evidence that contradicts the Council's claims. Evidence they tried to destroy, but failed." As the message was sent, Haeun handed Jaiwo her tablet. On it was not just her research, but the entire educational database she had managed to download during the attack. "They tried to kill our future," Haeun said quietly. But they missed some of us. The Earth Command headquarters buzzed with activity as news of Nova Terran's destruction spread. In a secured conference room, Captain Jaiwo Park presented the evidence her crew had gathered to a somber group of military and civilian leaders. The Council claims Nova Terran was developing biological weapons, said Admiral Juno Lee, head of Earth's defense forces. But your evidence suggests otherwise. Jaiwo nodded, projecting images from Heiyun's tablet. These are educational records, not weapon designs. The colony was advancing learning techniques that combined human creativity with alien knowledge systems. Intelligence Officer Minji Khan stepped forward with her findings. We've analyzed the attack patterns. The Galactic Council targeted schools first, then homes. Military installations were hit last and with less precision. That's not how you neutralize a weapons threat. The room fell silent as the implications set in. Someone had wanted the children dead first. Earth's ambassador to the Council, Tae-Woo Choi, looked troubled. We've demanded answers through official channels. The responses are contradictory. Contradictory how? Jaiwo asked. Some council members seemed genuinely shocked by the attack. Others insist it was necessary but won't elaborate on why, Tae-Woo explained. It's as if the council itself is divided. While Earth's leaders debated their response, Jaiwo's crew continued their investigation aboard the Olive Branch, now stationed at Earth's orbital defense platform. Heiyun worked closely with them, her knowledge of Nova Terran's systems proving invaluable. Look at this, Heiyun said one evening, calling Jaiwo to her workstation. I found something in the colony's communication logs. She played a recording of a meeting between Nova Terran's education director and a council representative 3 months before the attack. The council member, an Ardaxian named Taejo, had seemed particularly interested in human learning capacity. And these children, they can process information at this rate consistently, the Ardaxian had asked, mandibles clicking in what the humans now recognized as agitation. Yes, and they improve with each passing month, the director had answered proudly. We believe this educational model could revolutionize learning across the galaxy. The recording ended with Taejo requesting detailed reports on the human educational methods for the Council archives. This doesn't make sense, First Officer Do-hyun said. Why would the Council fear education? The answer came unexpectedly from Communications Officer Miho, who had been analyzing intercepted Council transmissions. It's not the Council, it's specifically the Ardaxians, he explained, bringing up a star chart. Look where Nova Terran sits relative to Ardaxian space. The colony was positioned along a resource-rich corridor that the Ardaxian hegemony had been slowly expanding toward for decades. But that's still not reason enough for such an attack, Jaiwo objected. Heiyun, quiet until now, spoke up. It is if they've seen our potential. She pulled up her research data. Human children learn differently than Ardaxian young. We adapt faster, make creative leaps they don't. My research shows humans reach intellectual maturity in ways that would make us unpredictable to them. Minji's eyes widened as she made the connection. They weren't afraid of weapons. They were afraid of us, of what we might become. A breakthrough came when Miho intercepted a private communication between Counselor Taejo and another Ardaxian official. The message had been encrypted, but Earth's advanced systems cracked it. The human problem has been contained, Taejo had written. The evidence has been planted. The Council accepted our assessment without question. Proceed with preparations for the next phase. Jaiwo immediately sent this information to Earth Command. Within hours, she was called to an emergency meeting. We have confirmation, Admiral Juno announced grimly. 3 other human educational outposts have received inspection notices from Ardaxian officials. They're looking for more targets. Ambassador Tae-Woo added, we've been discreetly approached by representatives from 5 other council species. They're concerned about the Ardaxian actions but afraid to speak openly. Jaiwo looked around the room. So what do? We can't match the council's military might. No, agreed the admiral. But we don't have to. The Ardaxians manipulated the council using lies and fear. We fight back with truth. Later that night, Jaiwo found Haeun in the ship's garden, tending to plants from Nova Terran that the crew had managed to salvage. "They're going to let me testify," Haeun said without looking up. "They think my presence will force the council to confront what they've done." Jaiwoo sat beside her. "Are you afraid?" Haeun gently touched a blue flower beginning to bloom. "Yes," she admitted. "But my friends, my teachers, they can't speak anymore. So I have to." Jaiwo nodded, watching as the small girl continued her careful work with the plants. The Ardaxians had sought to extinguish humanity's potential, but they had failed to understand that potential's true nature, its ability to grow even from the smallest remaining spark. Earth Command Center operated at full capacity as Admiral Juno Lee coordinated humanity's response to the Nova Terran massacre. Maps and data streams filled the main display, tracking council ship movements and diplomatic communications. "The Ardaxians are moving forces to their outer colonies," reported Tactical Officer Dongwon. "They claim it's a standard rotation, but the pattern suggests preparation for conflict." Admiral Juno studied the projections. "And the other council species?" "Mixed responses," said Byung-go, Earth's diplomatic liaison. 3 species have already withdrawn from joint operations with the Ardaxians. 7 remain firmly aligned with them. The others are waiting to see what happens. The door slid open as Captain Jaiwo Park entered with her core team and Haeun. They had been recalled from the Olive Branch to help plan Earth's next moves. "Captain, your assessment?" Admiral Juno asked. "The Ardaxians miscalculated," Jaiwo said confidently. "They expected the council to stand united behind their fabricated evidence. Instead, questions are spreading." Intelligence Officer Minji pulled up intercepted communications on the main screen. "We've identified 3 more planned targets, all human educational facilities. The Ardaxians are accelerating their timeline." Admiral Juno's face hardened. "Evacuations are already underway at those locations. But we need to do more than just react." Earth had been preparing quietly since the first news of Nova Terran. Ships were being repositioned, but not for a frontal assault. Humanity couldn't win such a war. Instead, they deployed for intelligence gathering and precise intervention. "We've made contact with sympathetic council members," Byung-go revealed. "The Lorani and Etheri have agreed to share their communication channels. That gives us access to parts of the council network previously closed to us." While Earth's leaders planned their diplomatic and military approach, Jaiwo's team focused on a more targeted mission. They would infiltrate the Ardaxian command center that had orchestrated the Nova Terran attack, not to destroy it, but to gather irrefutable evidence. "Their primary planning facility is here," Minji explained, highlighting a structure on an Ardaxian moonbase. "It's heavily defended, but we've identified a potential entry point through their maintenance systems." That evening, as preparations continued, Haeun practiced her testimony for the council hearing that Earth had demanded. The girl had grown in the weeks since her rescue, her quiet grief hardening into determination. "Remember," Jaiwo coached her, "you don't need to convince all of them, just create enough doubt to fracture their unity." "I understand," Haeun replied. "The Ardaxians rely on the council believing their lies. One crack in that belief is all we need." Meanwhile, humans across settled space prepared for possible conflict. Civilian ships were retasked for evacuation duty. Military vessels moved into defensive positions around human colonies, maintaining strict orders not to fire first. Word came that 3 more council species had requested evidence reviews of the Nova Terran incident. The Ardaxian narrative was beginning to unravel. "They're getting nervous," Minji noted, reviewing fresh intelligence. "Counselor Taejo has called an emergency meeting of his inner circle." "That's our window," Jaiwoo declared. "Their security will be focused on protecting the meeting, not watching for external infiltration." Admiral Juno authorized the mission. Jaiwoo would lead a small team into the Ardaxian command center while Haeun prepared to testify before a council emergency session. The timing had to be perfect. The evidence they extracted would need to reach the council chamber just as doubts peaked. The day before departure, Jaiwoo found Haeun in the simulation room, practicing her statement in front of projected images of council representatives. "Are you ready?" Jaiwoo asked. Heiyun nodded. I've been thinking about what you said about not needing to convince everyone. She pulled out her tablet, showing a detailed analysis of council voting patterns. I've identified which representatives might be sympathetic. I'll direct my testimony toward them. Jaiwu looked at the girl with newfound respect. This was why the Ardaxians feared human children, not for their knowledge, but for their adaptability. As final preparations were made, reports arrived of unusual movement near one of the human educational outposts targeted by the Ardaxians. They were moving earlier than expected. They know we're onto them, Admiral Juno concluded grimly. They're accelerating their plans. The mission timetable compressed from days to hours. Jaiwa's team boarded their specialized infiltration vessel, disguised as a routine supply ship. Remember, Jaiwa told her crew as they prepared for departure, we're not seeking revenge. We're seeking justice. As their ship broke orbit, Earth received word that the Council had agreed to hear Heiyun's testimony. The Ardaxians had objected strongly but were overruled, the first clear sign that their influence was waning. The storm was gathering, not of weapons and warships, but of truth against deception. In the coming days, the galaxy would learn what humanity did when its children were threatened, not through force alone, but through the relentless pursuit of justice. The infiltration vessel approached the Ardaxian moon base using a series of short, controlled jumps through nearby asteroid fields to mask its approach. Captain Jaiwu Park and her team of 6 specialists sat in tense silence as First Officer Do-Hyun guided the ship toward the maintenance dock. Approaching final position, Do-Hyun said quietly. Ardaxian security patrols are following standard patterns. No indication they've detected us. Jaiwu nodded, checking her equipment one final time. Their mission was precision itself: enter the command center, extract the evidence of Ardaxian deception, and transmit it to the council chambers where Heiyun would be testifying in exactly 12 hours. Remember, Jaiwu told her team, non-lethal measures only. We're here for information, not revenge. The team wore adaptive suits that mimicked Ardaxian maintenance worker signatures. Intelligence Officer Minji had created the disguises based on intercepted worker schedules and access codes. If they moved quickly and confidently, most security systems would register them as authorized personnel. Their ship latched onto an external maintenance port with barely a sound. The team moved through the airlock and into the service tunnels that ran throughout the base like veins. Central Command is 3 levels up, Communications Officer Miho whispered, consulting the holographic map projected from his wrist device. Security is heaviest at the main entrance, but the maintenance shaft runs directly behind Counselor Taejo's private office. The team moved through the dimly lit tunnels, freezing whenever Ardaxian workers passed nearby. Their path took them through increasingly sensitive areas, each requiring Minji to bypass security measures with carefully crafted access codes. Something's happening, Miho said suddenly, listening to intercepted communications. There's increased activity in the command center. They're discussing Nova Terran. Jaiwo signaled for the team to move faster. Whatever was happening, they needed to reach Taejo's office before critical information might be deleted. When they finally reached the access panel behind Taejo's office, they could hear voices inside. Minji carefully attached a listening device to the wall. The council hearing is a problem, came Taejo's distinctive clicking voice. The human child survivor should not have been allowed to testify. It's too late to prevent it, another voice responded. But we can ensure she has no evidence to support her claims. Purge all records of Operation Educational Containment from the central database. Jaiwu exchanged alarmed glances with her team. They had to move now. Minji bypassed the final security measure, and the access panel slid open silently. The office was empty, the voices had been coming through a communication system. On Taejo's desk, multiple screens showed data being systematically deleted. They're erasing everything, Do-Hyun whispered urgently. Not if I can help it, Minji replied, quickly connecting to the system. Her fingers moved in a blur across her portable interface. I can redirect the data stream, but we need direct access to the central server. Miho checked the facility map. Server room is 1 level down, heavily guarded. Jaiwo made a quick decision. Do-Hyun, stay with Minji. Help her get what she can from here. The rest of us will access the server room. The team split up. Jaiwo led 4 members down through another maintenance shaft toward the server room. They encountered 2 Ardaxian technicians along the way, but their disguises held under casual inspection. The server room presented a more significant challenge. 2 armed guards stood at the entrance. "We have maintenance authorization," Jaiwo said in flawless Ardaxian trade language. "Critical system failure in data node 7. The guards looked suspicious. "We received no notification." "That's the problem," Jaiwo replied smoothly. "Communication systems are part of the failure. Check your terminals in 5 minutes if they're still working." The bluff worked. The guards stepped aside, more concerned about a system failure than maintenance workers. Once inside, the team worked quickly. While 2 members secured the door, Jaiwu and security specialist Juno connected directly to the main data core. "I'm in," Juno said after tense minutes of work. "Accessing backup archives, got it. Full records of Operation Educational Containment. Including Teijo's direct orders to target children first." Back in Teijo's office, Minji had made her own discovery. "Captain," she said through their secure channel, "I found something else, plans for attacks on 4 more human colonies, all with educational facilities." "Download everything," Jaiwu ordered. "Miho, prepare the transmission package for the council hearing." The team worked frantically as alarms suddenly blared through the facility. "We've been detected," Do-Hyan reported from Teijo's office. "Security forces converging on your position and ours. Transmit now," Jaiwu ordered. "Even if we don't make it out, the evidence has to reach the council." Miho activated the powerful transmission system they'd brought. "Sending to all council species simultaneously. They can't block them all." As security forces closed in, the team's screens lit up with confirmation, transmission complete. The evidence was now spreading across council communication channels faster than the Ardaxians could contain it. Jaiwo smiled grimly as the sound of approaching guards echoed down the corridor. They had what they came for. Now Haeun would have everything she needed to make the council face the truth. The Grand Council chamber fell silent as Haeun finished speaking. Her small figure stood alone at the center of the vast circular room, surrounded by representatives from 87 galactic species. Though only 14 years old now, she spoke with the quiet authority of someone who had seen too much. "I have shown you what happened," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "Not what the Ardaxians claim happened, but the truth. 3 million people lived on Nova Terran. 2 million of them were children. Now only 15 of us remain." The evidence transmitted by Captain Jaiwa's team played on the massive screens around the chamber. Records of Operation Educational Containment, orders signed by Counselor Teijo, communications discussing the human learning problem and how it needed to be contained before it spreads. The Ardaxian delegation sat rigidly in their section, mandibles clicking in agitation. Counselor Teijo had been notably absent from the proceedings, still being held by human authorities after his capture during the information raid. "The question before this council is not just about one attack," continued Haeun. "It is about what kind of galaxy we want to live in. One where children can be killed because their way of learning makes others uncomfortable? Or one where different species help each other grow?" Murmurs spread through the chamber as representatives conferred with their delegations. The Lorani representative, a tall, willowy being, rose to speak. "We have reviewed the evidence provided by the humans. It is authentic. The Ardaxian hegemony acted without council approval, falsified reports, and committed what can only be described as genocide." More voices joined in support. The tide was turning, and the Ardaxian representatives knew it. Their senior counselor attempted to speak, but was shouted down by other members. Outside the council chamber, Captain Jaiwu and her team watched the proceedings from a secured observation area. They had been detained briefly after their raid on the Ardaxian facility but were released when the evidence they gathered proved authentic. Now they waited to see if their actions would bring justice. "They're voting," Do-Hyan said, pointing to the display showing council members registering their positions. One by one, species aligned either with Earth or with the Ardaxians. Some abstained. But the results soon became clear. By an overwhelming majority, the Council acknowledged the crimes committed against Nova Terran and called for Ardaxian accountability. The declaration came swiftly: all Ardaxian military forces would withdraw from human space immediately. Reparations would be paid to the survivors. And most significantly, a new set of interstellar laws would be established, specifically protecting educational freedom across species. 6 months later, Jaiwo stood with Heian on the restored surface of Nova Terran. The colony was being rebuilt, not just as a human settlement, but as an interspecies educational center. The Nova Terran Memorial Institute would bring together young learners from across the galaxy. Do you think it will work? Jaiwo asked as they watched ships landing nearby, carrying students and teachers from 20 different worlds. Heian nodded. Fear comes from not understanding each other. That's what the Ardaxians never realized. They were afraid of what they didn't understand about us. The memorial itself stood at the center of the new campus, a simple crystal structure containing the names of those lost in the attack. Each night, it projected their names into the sky above Nova Terran, a reminder of why the Institute existed. Counselor Tejo and his senior commanders had been tried under the new laws they themselves had violated. Found guilty, they were sentenced not to death, but to a lifetime of service teaching Ardaxian young alongside other species, forced to confront the differences they had feared. As evening approached, representatives from many council species gathered around the memorial for the remembrance ceremony. Jaiwo noticed something remarkable: young Ardaxians stood among them, brought by parents who had opposed Tejo's faction. Captain Park called a voice. Admiral Juno approached with several council dignitaries. The new Council Security Committee would like to speak with you. The committee had been formed to prevent any species from manipulating the Council again. They wanted Jaiwo to help lead it. A human perspective was now considered essential. They need you, Heian said simply. Like I needed you. As darkness fell, the memorial activated, projecting millions of names into the night sky. Among the stars, the names of the lost children of Nova Terran shone brightly. Below them stood the living. Humans and aliens together, watching the galaxy's newest generation begin to learn from each other without fear. They tried to stop our future, Heian said, echoing her words from months ago. But they only helped us find a better one. Jaiwo looked up at the names, then at the diverse group of young beings entering the new learning centers. The Ardaxians had feared human potential. Now that potential would help ensure no species ever suffered as humans had a vengeance more powerful than any weapon could achieve.